Well, first, the leader has to create an environment of vulnerability by being vulnerable themselves. If a leader says, hey, I messed up here, or I don't know the answer, or we've tried this for 3 weeks and it's not working, that's my mistake. We're going to try something new. If the leader makes sure that everybody in the team is heard, right? Because everybody's personality is different. Some people speak up, some people are quiet. So a great leader makes sure that everybody is heard. And we'll ask those who haven't spoken, what are your...
It means a lot personally of what your dad has done to me. And I know most people in sales, no matter where they are, they feel the same way if they've read any of his books.
Pulled him aside at a break and put his hand on his shoulder and looked him in the eye and said, Zig, in all my life, I've never seen such a waste. But if you believed in yourself and went to work on a regular schedule, you could be a champion. And so that's what he did. That was the day he started trying to figure out what does it mean to believe in yourself.
Hey guys, this is Ashish Janiani, and I can't be happier ever. If there's one interview that I've been looking forward to, it's this one. If you have not heard this guy's name, you probably haven't existed long enough in sales. And if you have and you're missing it, you're missing a big chunk of what sales is about, because this man is a legend. And today we are going to speak to his son, who's carrying his legacy out, because he left us unfortunately in 2012, but his legacy goes strong, continues with all of us on this planet who have learned so much from him. Okay, Zig Ziglar is an authority, a legend, a genuine salesperson who transformed how sales is done today. Secrets of closing the sale, see you at the top are some of the names that you might have heard about. And I am just very, very excited for this interview with Tom Ziglar, his son. Take notes. We made it on time.
I know. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you? I want you to know that it's a dream come true for me. It means a lot personally of what your dad has done to me. And I know most people in sales, no matter where they are, they feel the same way if they've read any of his books. But I want to start with you and your dad, okay? For people who somehow don't know, okay? Who was Zig Ziglar? Who is he? And who is Tom Ziglar? If you can give us an insight.
You bet. So my father, Zig Ziglar, he passed away about almost 9 years ago now. In his life, he wrote 45 books. And something that's pretty cool is 9 of those books have come out after he passed away. When you talk about legacy and intellectual property, the ability to take these audio programs, hundreds of them, and then transcribe them and turn them into a book. That's what's happened. So the volume, the material just keeps growing because there's such a demand for, like I call it, serving and integrity-based selling. I mean, in sales, we're out there to serve. We're out there to solve problems. He told me that they were actually the second poorest family in this city, a town, maybe 10,000 people, during the Great Depression, in one of the poorest states in the country. So he really did come from, nowhere, no education, no money. He went into the military, Navy, got out. This was during World War II, and then got his first sales job. And for 2.5 years, he didn't sell anything. 2.5 years into that, and this was direct sales. So this is knocking on doors. Cookware, so stainless steel cookware. And he was at a sales conference, and one of the leaders of the company pulled him aside at a break and put his hand on his shoulder and looked him in the eye and said, Zig, in all my life, I've never seen such a waste. But if you believed in yourself and went to work on a regular schedule, you could be a champion. And so that's what he did. That was the day he started trying to figure out, what does it mean to believe in yourself? And so that year he finished number 2 out of 7,000. And in the previous 2.5 years, he'd never been in the top 5,000. And so that really became kind of that integration of mindset and belief and sales skills. Now you got to have both. To be effective, you've got to have that self-confidence, that belief, that understanding, I'm here to serve, that confidence that your product or service has value. You've got to have all that. You've also got to be professional. You've got to know the right questions to ask, the right sales process, how to overcome objections, how to create a relationship, how to make them happy long after the sale is made, because that's where the referrals. And whenever you look at very, very successful salespeople who've been around a while, their businesses offer referrals and reputation. It's they're engaging and they're fun to be around and they're professional. But the reason they get referrals is because people trust them. I'll send you my friends, my family, the people I do business with, because I trust you. I want them to have the same experience. So that was really how Dad got started. And then, as often happens when you become very successful in something, the people in the business, they want to know what your secret is. And so they ask you to come and speak. So he started off sales training. That was his first thing that he did. And he was teaching technique and skill and strategy and questions. And he started to realize that that wasn't the missing ingredient. It was people's mindset, their belief, their self-image, their principles, their values. Now we focus on certifying and licensing speakers, trainers, and coaches. That's our primary business. So that's how we carry out the legacy.
I want to speak about, of course, the pillars, and he's taught us so much, and you've taken it further. I want to combine his philosophies with the new world that you're experiencing and taking it out there. What would be some cornerstones of the teachings of the Ziglar family when it comes to sales? And if we could elaborate on one or two of those with examples, which will help entrepreneurs and sales executives and managers, around the world face the situation which is right now and be able to, improve their businesses.
Yeah. So I'll hit on a few things. If you ask Dad what his number one reason for success was, he always said character and integrity. And it doesn't matter what disruption's going on, whether it's a competitor is moving in and taking your clients, market shift. It doesn't matter what the disruption is. If you have character and integrity and a reputation, that will see you through. It will either allow you to survive and grow in a difficult time, or it will allow you to land on your feet. And because at the end of the day, that's the platform you build any successful long-term career on. Number 2 was persistent consistency. And this is his definition, the Ziglar definition for work ethic. And so consistency means that if you have a worthwhile goal or objective, something you're working towards, you do it every day, right? So let's just use a sales example. You're outbound calling, and the first day you make 50 calls. That's consistency. The second day you make 50 calls, and then you just add a different question into the conversation to see the response. You test it. That's persistency, right? You're taking it, you're being persistent, you're taking it up a notch. The third day you make your 50 calls, that's consistency. And then maybe you give a different story or a different illustration to see what happens. And so that's how he became the greatest speaker in the world, is he would give his talk, and then he would look at the talk and he would go, how can I improve 1 to 2% of that talk? What story can I add in? What question can I add in? What should I take out? And so over the year, the talk would migrate and it would just get better and better and better and better every single time. And so as a professional in sales, especially in a time like this where people are hurting and your buyers are wondering, I don't know if I'm going to have a job next week and I don't know what's going to happen with our company and everything's on hold. Well, this is the perfect time to start adding in questions around empathy and understanding and what is it that, what are their challenges? What's different now than a year ago? And when you start to build a relationship around that, it changes the nature of what it is. So the first one is character and integrity. That's the pillar. The second one is persistent consistency. That's the work ethic. It's not just working harder. It's working smarter, and it's this commitment. Now, here is a huge one today, and this is a huge trend. It's not a new trend, but it's the curve on it is really escalated. And that is in the past, we've had a results oriented culture. And a lot of times management is very results oriented. Did you do all your numbers? Did you hit your quota for the day, the week, the month, the year? It's all about results. And when you have a disruption like a pandemic, the rules change. And if you are a results-oriented leader, then your tendency is to look at the plan and just try to work it harder, right? You do more of it. You tweak it, but it's still the same plan when it's been so disrupted that the plan doesn't work at all. Okay. So the more, if you look back at companies that have struggled in the last year, the more committed they are to a 5-year strategic plan, the more they struggle. Instead of being results focused, be growth focused.
And how do you differentiate that?
So if I'm leading a team and I've got growth oriented people, then I get real excited when disruption comes, because we can turn on a dime, we can learn, we can improvise, we can grow, and we can meet the needs of today better than people who are results focused. Here's a model that I have, and that is that opportunity, think of 3 circles and they overlap in the middle, okay? So in the center of that overlap is the word opportunity. So where does opportunity occur? It occurs at the embrace of disruption, mindset, and atmosphere.
And how would you differentiate disruption and atmosphere?
So I'll go through it. So disruption, it's always happening. I mean, things are always changing. But when I did the research this last year, the disruption that we've seen in the past 12 months is nothing compared to what we're going to see in the next 5 years.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I mean, get ready. Technological convergence, quantum computing, AI, virtual reality, quantum computing is coming. I was reading the numbers on it. Quantum computing is 300 trillion times faster than regular computing.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
So think about it. If it takes 5 to 10 years to do the research on a new drug, typically, because of the processing and the computing time and the studies we've got to do, if AI guides it and you've got quantum computing behind it, maybe we can put out a drug every 10 minutes. Wow. I mean, when you look at 300 trillion, that's a speed that we can't even comprehend, right? I mean, so what I'm saying is the disruption's coming. So if you look at that, first circle of disruption, are we excited about the disruption? Are we going to embrace it? because of all the challenge, all the change, which creates opportunity? Or are we afraid of it? Are we going to wish it would go back to the way it was?
Most people would say go back to how it was, right?
Yeah. So if I'm in sales, I'm loving all this disruption
Hmm.
because my competition's afraid. They're trying to do it in a way that doesn't work anymore.
Hmm.
But if I embrace disruption, my customers, those who I serve, they have more problems than they've ever had.
Hmm.
So why don't I go ask them, hey, what are the new problems you're facing? Let me figure out how to help. Then the second circle, there's disruption. Then there's mindset. So if I'm a leader and I'm looking at all this disruption, what's my mindset about what's happening?
Hmm.
Am I growth oriented, where I focus on developing my people and connecting with my customers directly and finding out how I can help? Or is my mindset, this changes everything? You know, we might not be in business. So
Hmm.
if your mindset is hope filled, positive, optimistic, we can, we get to create the future, then that changes our thinking, right? If I have a positive mindset, my thinking is positive. My thinking impacts my performance.
Hmm.
Hey, if what I'm going to do is going to help, if it's going to matter, then I'm going to perform at a higher level than if I think what I'm going to do doesn't matter, right? I mean, why
Hmm.
bother?
Yes. Yes.
So my thinking determines my performance. My performance determines the future. So our mindset creates the future, either positive or negative.
And that's the atmosphere.
That's mindset. So
Okay.
here's atmosphere. So if I'm a leader, atmosphere, I'll just give you two examples. A lot of people call it culture or they call it environment. I call it atmosphere. And atmosphere to me is spiritual. And I've been using this word for a couple of years to describe this. But when you and I are halfway around the world from each other and we're on a Zoom and there's an atmosphere here, right? There's a
Yes.
connection, there's energy, right? And so
Yes.
as a leader, I've got to create an atmosphere.
How do you do that, Tom? Like, how do you build a culture, that atmosphere? And you spoke about being a leader who has a team which is growth oriented. How do you do that when we are working from home? Is there a way to do it that you can talk about a little bit?
Yeah. So I've come up with a term that I'll describe. I'll give you the term first and then I'll explain it. The term is asynchronous vulnerability. So asynchronous is kind of a buzzword right now. And all that means is that people are doing work in different countries, different time zones, different locations, and they're doing it remotely. And a lot of that work is going into Slack documents or Google Docs. And it just means that we can all work on a project without being in the same room at the same time,
Hmm.
right? That's what asynchronous means. So in a team, the most uh, powerful teams, the teams that have the highest level of productivity, vulnerability is one of the key attributes. It
Hmm.
might be the number one. So what is vulnerability? Well, first, the leader has to create an environment of vulnerability by being vulnerable themselves. If a leader says, hey, I messed up here, or I don't know the answer, or we've tried this for 3 weeks and it's not working, that's my mistake. We're going to try something new. If the leader makes sure that everybody in the team is heard, right? Because everybody's personality is different. Some people speak up, some people are quiet. So a great leader makes sure that everybody is heard. And we'll ask those who haven't spoken, what are your thoughts, right?
Hmm.
They will make sure that everybody on the team is safe. So what does that mean? It means that if a leader is demonstrating vulnerability and somebody on the team raises their hand and says, I don't understand that, or I think I messed up, or, I've got this crazy idea. If other people on the team kind of ridicule that person, the leader cuts it off and says, no, that's not what we do here. We support each other. We've got each other's back, right? And so everybody's heard, everybody feels like they're safe, and everybody's included. So if somebody's remote and the rest of the team is in the office, the leader goes to great lengths to make sure that all the meetings happen with everybody together, right? There's
Wow.
nobody is isolated or left out. So why is vulnerability so important? Because in a time of disruption, with things changing so fast, our ability to adapt or get something to market or to accomplish something, it really depends on everybody on the team putting their best effort in and then raising their hand when they don't know something. Because if I fake it, if I act like I know it, we're going to waste hours and days and weeks. And then when it's time to deliver, it's not ready yet because somebody didn't feel safe and vulnerable to share, hey, I don't know. So in results-oriented companies, the vulnerability is usually pretty low because I'm measured on my output. And if my output's not good, then I'm going to get a bad mark. And so I can't let anybody know I'm struggling. Maybe hopefully I can catch up. But a team that's growth oriented, where the value is how much have you learned since you've been here? How much better are you today than you were a week ago? Right. And just because, in fact, when you don't know something, we're going to give you a high five because we want to teach you, right? We want to get you caught up. And so vulnerable teams then get projects done a lot faster.
And I think they enjoy it more, right?
Absolutely. So in the idea of atmosphere of creating this place where people want to work, asynchronous vulnerability is one of the key attributes of that. So here's what asynchronous vulnerability means. It means it means trust, not dependent on time or space. It means trust, not dependent on where or when. So here's the spiritual context. Trust that's not dependent on time or space or where or when. The word for that is faith.
Yes.
If I can work for some place where I have faith that they're going to do the right thing, that they're going to treat me with respect, that they're going to be kind, that they're going to understand that things at home are going nuts. If I have the faith that they're going to do that, then I'm going to work for that group harder than I've worked for anybody else because that's where I want to be. And so to tie it up, I do a bookend. Okay. So we've got asynchronous vulnerability, but I have this thing called dream alignment or alignment of purpose. And so the company, the business, it has a mission or it has a purpose. And everybody on the team, everybody who works there needs to be focused on that mission, right? So our business does what, right? Whatever that is.
Yes.
So as a worker there, I've got to be fired up and excited. Now, as the leader, I need to know what your purpose is. And if I got 10 people on my team, I'm going to get 10 different purposes. My purpose is to get out of debt. My why is to save enough money to retire. My why is to buy the house. My why is I want to get married and I got to save up for that event. Well, here's the thing. Every dream takes time and money to get it. If it didn't, it wouldn't be a dream, right? So is it true the better you do on your job, the more money you make?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And the truth is in today's global world, if I do a fantastic job here and I'm not rewarded, somebody else is going to reward me.
Hmm. Yeah, correct.
It's going to happen, right? So here's the reality. If I'm the leader and I know what your dream is, if my job is to help you get your dream, and you know that I'm helping you get your dream,
Wow.
you're going to come to work every day working for a dream instead of a paycheck.
Wow.
And now I don't have to motivate you. You're already motivated.
Yes.
So if I walk in and I say, it's just, how do we, how can we get your dream faster? Are you listening? You're like excited about this.
Yes. Can we talk about as my last question, and then we come to, of course, the certifications and what books would you recommend? But just before that, this is important. What is the importance of a phone call, making a phone call in today's world? And would door to door still as a strategy you think work now and in the coming years? I'm saying outside the lockdown, at some point in time, different parts of the world are opening up, doors to be able to go back in the field. So what is the importance of making a phone call today and door to door?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen is that people have used technology as a crutch. They think that a lot of emails will get the job done, and they just don't. So I think a phone call is actually more important than it's ever been. The face to face, if possible, the Zoom face to face, just picking up the phone. All of these things are very relational.
Hmm.
And, and the reason it's so important is we know, I mean, if I call 10 people, 8 of them are hurting, maybe 9. they're, they're anxious, they're worried, things aren't going the way they want it to. They've got family or friends they're worried about. And so if I can have an interaction with them, uh, phone, and I can hear their voice inflection, I can ask them other questions. In a text, you don't know what they're thinking, but in a phone call, they might say, their voice might change, and you just ask the question. It sounds like you're a little disappointed there. Tell me what that means.
Got it. And how do you see door to door for some businesses now and in the coming years, right? Like, does it still have that powerful space for some businesses?
You know, doing this around the world in different locations, in general, if you can do that, it's always better. Uh,
Hmm.
Now, depending on your industry and depending on the culture, some places they'll think you're crazy if you just walk in.
Yeah.
Right? And you just introduce yourself. What I like to teach is, if you have an appointment with someone in a building and there's multiple businesses there, do some homework before you go. Know who
Yes.
else is in the building, and maybe drop by a few of the other prospects, and let them know that you're in the building working with somebody there, and just network and refer that way. That's a great use of time. But every type of product is different, and every culture is a little different. So you just got to be aware of that.
Got it. Wow. Okay. Yes, great stuff. So now, if you had to suggest, to entrepreneurs, primarily entrepreneurs, a couple books to start with, from the family, what would those books be? And can you talk a little bit about the certification program for leaders and managers and other coaches who are watching this? What does the certification do to them? What do they learn in that, and how can they access that? How can they apply for that?
If you're looking at a whole life approach of how to be successful in every area of your life, see you at the top, if you're wanting to take your sales to the next level, secrets of closing the sale. Dad really liked, he got a lot out of writing Over the Top, which was the book that came after See You at the Top. It's kind of 1-2. So that would be the third one that I would recommend. The last book that Dad wrote while he was still here on Earth was called Born to Win, which is fantastic. And then I came out with a book 2 years ago called Choose to Win. And of course, I recommend that. And that kind of puts a lot of things together, and it's, you know, it's written for the time that we're in right now. So some people might like that just because it's more current.
And can you talk about the certification program?
Yeah, so we work, we have 2 different programs, and a lot of people do both. We have our Ziglar Legacy certification, and that's for people who want to be a speaker or a trainer using the Ziglar content and Ziglar brand. And we have a couple of certified trainers around the world. And when they come through right now, they come through the course in Dallas. We have one coming up in June, as a matter of fact. And then they are equipped to take the material and go out, and they can either build a business with it if they want to be a speaker or a trainer, but these can be delivered in a live classroom, or they can be delivered over a webinar format. We provide all the leaders guides, all the PowerPoints, everything that the leader needs. If it's a webinar format, we actually give electronic workbooks. So it's really easy for, you know, if you got people in 10 different, in 10 different locations, they can just print the workbook where they are. And then we have the hard copy workbooks as well. And then the other is our coaching, the Ziglar coaching system. This is probably the biggest part of our business. Is so many people are getting into coaching, one-on-one coaching or small group coaching. And this is perfect for what we've done. It's about a balanced life. So it kind of falls into that life coach category.
Mm-hmm.
And these are done online. So you can become a licensed Ziglar coach through an online program that's live webinars through Zoom that we teach. Now, here's what's interesting. In the United States, there's a company called Growmotely.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've heard of it. They're fairly new, but they're a startup. Actually, they're pretty big, but they're not that old. And their focus is on finding remote people who want to work remotely for companies who want to hire remote workers.
Mm.
Now think about it. If you want to hire a remote worker, that means that geographic is no longer a constraint. You can find the best anywhere in the world.
Well,
And so this is a staffing type company. So what they do is they find potential remote workers, and then they try to find companies that will hire them, and they kind of broker that. But they did a survey of all of their customers, all of the people who wanted to be a remote worker. And they said, what do you value? What do you want your employer to provide you? So everybody who's a leader, listen to these 3 things. And it might be different. The first one might be different in different countries, just depending on the system. But in the US, number 1 was healthcare benefits. So that was number 1. Number 2, I want you to listen to this. The number 2 requirement that these people wanted to see in an employer is they wanted the employer to have a professional development plan in place for them.
oh, wow.
In other words, what somebody's saying is, I want to go work for a company that wants me to grow, that wants me to move up, that wants me to advance, that wants me to be successful in the role that I come into. And then they've got a professional development plan of how I can grow and learn more. And that'll either move me up inside the company and make me more valuable. So that was number 2. The number 2 thing they wanted was a company that's going to help them grow. And number 3 is they wanted a coach. And the coach would cover 3 categories: career, mindset, in life.
Wow.
And the reason is that we talked about it earlier. If I'm struggling in my balanced life, right? If I'm having issues, my performance isn't going to be what it should be.
Hmm.
It's just not. And so what they're saying, gosh, if I had a coach who I could confide in, who could ask me the tough questions, who I could, because you don't go to, typically people don't go to their manager and say, I'm having trouble with my kids. They don't go to, they don't go to the manager and say, my car broke down. They don't go to the manager and say, I don't know what I should do next in my career, right? Because they're worried about how it's going to be received. Well, a coach can hear that information. They've got confidentiality. They're not going to go and share it with that. And they help these, through questions and through a process, they help each individual overcome these challenges so they can be more productive in every area of their life. Well, if my company is helping me by providing a coach or assisting me with a coach, and I feel happy and satisfied, who am I going to give credit for that?
The
The company. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that's what people would say. That's a big opening. Interesting. And this is people around the world saying this. This is not just one country. That's what it is. Great. All right. Wow. What website do they go to now? Like, to find more information about everything.
Ziglar.com.
Okay. As simple as that. Tom, this means a lot. Like, wow, I thought this was going to be, just about sales, but we've gone into sales, we've gone into leadership, we've gone into life. And I'm thinking about a few things. That's just, I really appreciate this, you giving time to us. People who are going to watch this, they're coming from different backgrounds, so they will take what they have to take from them. Means a lot. Thank you so much.